All right, we are live. So welcome everybody to this Vaadin community town hall. My name is Jonas. I'm running product here at Vaadin.
I'm Leif. I'm in charge of the frameworks, Hilla and Flow.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a product strategist at Vaadin, but lately I've been the product manager for Vaadin Copilot.
So the intent of this town hall is first and foremost answer all your questions. So I hope that you will type your questions in the YouTube comments, not comments, but the question section, and we are able to hopefully see those as well. And we try to kind of answer all your questions as they are coming in. So we thought that we'll organize this in a kind of three parts. I'll give a bit of intro where Vaadin is going, and then we'll take all the questions related to that. And then Leif continues from there, giving a live coding demo on how React is integrating with Vaadin directly, and hopefully have many questions about that. And then we'll jump over to seeing this awesome new Copilot and being like really anxious about seeing what the AI gods are, how they are treating us with the live demo. All right, should we get started? Mark and Leif, do you want to add anything at this point?
No, just we can hear that there's a lot of building going on as we speak behind Jonas. I'm assuming that's the GA getting built.
Yeah, it's apparently today next to my house, like 2 meters from my microphone, people are building new fence. So that was a nice surprise this morning. But I hope that's kind of it's intentional. It's because we are still in beta. The fence is still in beta.
It's a good background sound. It's not. I don't think it's that loud. So.
All right. So maybe starting from a bit far away from why are we here. So Vaadin's purpose always have been to fight for simplicity, to be able to reduce complexity. And when we are asking customers why they're using Vaadin, this is exactly what the reason why they are using Vaadin. So they see that they get more productivity out of this. And the reason for that is pretty much that they enable Java teams to do way more than they would be able to do otherwise. And when we kind of think this, we would like to kind of see it going further than just developer productivity, because in the end of it, you guys are building for end users and hopefully getting them to be looking, smiling and happy and excited about the apps that you are building. And in order to do that, the apps themselves should be increasing your end user productivity. So they should be simple to use. They should have awesome features and all of that. And how you are doing that is that hopefully you are able to kind of stay in a flow state, building those features instead of fighting with all kinds of tech. And that's where we try to help you at Vaadin, basically building development platform that makes things simple and helps avoiding all this kind of low-level debugging and fighting with the tech. So we started asking ourselves again, what are you guys building? And I don't know, we have seen people building everything between like space tech and banking and government organizations and SaaS apps with Vaadin. So I guess the answer is we have no clue. You guys are building everything on top of Vaadin. But asking this again, we started thinking that, what Vaadin should be good for building? What are those kind of modern applications that you should be building next? What are the qualities of an application that those end users would be delighted about? So we started collecting a kind of a checklist of things that we believe that every awesome web application targeted for business purposes should be having. So obviously they should be accessible by anybody, whether they whatever kind of limitations they have. They should be collaborative in a way that it's not just one user using it, but there should be, in real time, if you have multiple users, they should be seeing each other. It should be working fluently with them. And that's pretty kind of high technical bar that we try to help you to go over. Kind of stupid, simple thing is that they should be linkable. So whatever you see in web browser, one of the cool things in web browser is that there is this URL, and it should actually work. So you should be able to kind of send that over to anybody in your organization. That they should see exactly what you were seeing in the screen. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it's harder than that, and we try to make it simple. And obviously, it should be working on any device, whether it's like cell phone or Vision Pro or everything in between. One of the things that kind of often hinder the usability and linkability is that you end up in a login screen. So I think in the future, more and more of the application, the kind of login should be completely seamless, whether your device is scanning your retina or thumb or face or whatnot. That should just happen somewhere behind the scenes, being so quick step that you don't actually ever see login. And people nowadays, they live in these kind of distributed teams. So obviously, it's not just the app that they are living in. They should be able to kind of share whatever views from your app in Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever you guys are using. Obvious things are like the application should be so intuitive that there are no docs needed. I don't think there's anything technical about it. It's all about good design. The apps built with Vaadin, they are going to power user apps quite often. So you should be able to use these just by kind of with your keyboard. Everything should be working with shortcuts for advanced users. So we shouldn't be kind of slowing anybody down with by forcing them to slowly change pages or click with mouse or anything like that. AI is everywhere. Everybody recognizes that already. And obviously this app should be looking beautiful. People kind of judge the quality of your app by the cover nowadays. So if it looks beautiful, well thought out, they kind of associate higher quality of the actual application with that. It's a kind of illusion, but it's important currency in the today's online world. If you haven't tried out, take a look of the StarPass demo. I'm not going to be... actually, maybe we should open it up here as well. I just have to share this. Just a second. Let's present StarPass demo as well. So this is a quick demo application that we are building for you and us to showcase what type of application Vaadin is good for. So maybe not necessarily it needs to be good for space travel applications, but to demonstrate that the applications being built with Vaadin, they're quite data-centric. So there are a lot of data in here, typically like tables, all kinds of CRUD type of functionalities in those tables. Maybe there are like live chats in there. And overall, they should be themable. They should be, I don't know if my screen share is working. They should kind of quickly adapt to any screen sizes and so forth. So this is a new initiative, kind of Vaadin demo, StarPass demo, that we will be developing over time to basically demonstrate all of the qualities of a modern business application. So this is more a platform where we will be adding new features later on. And before anybody asks, can I use this theme? This theme is isolated in the directory at the moment, but we'll kind of bring the support for building applications that look exactly like that in the future to the Vaadin core as well. All right, so let's get back to my presentation part. There we have it. So what Vaadin is how you build these modern business applications is pretty much on foundation of Java. So Vaadin is all about the Java themes. And if you look at all the type of stacks out there for building web apps, they all pretty much look the same. So you have this kind of architecture from UI pixels to some kind of database in there and everything in the middle. And quite typically, people kind of build this in a decoupled way, having different type of layers, pick and choosing all the techniques in there. But in all of this, there ends up being a network in the middle, and that is a problem quite often because it's complicated to handle this communication in there. So one way of doing this is kind of splitting your team in two parts, having front and a back-end team separately, and that way kind of mirror the application architecture with the team architecture. And I think this is stupid. We shouldn't be doing this. This might work for some organizations that have really special requirements for this. I believe that instead teams should be able to handle the whole thing end to end, like being a full stack team who own the features from end to end. And the reason for that is that when teams own it end to end, they really can leave the process behind and iterate much more fast within the same team. And that leaves you getting the app built faster and with better quality. So kind of nothing new to anybody in this kind of this town hall, because you guys are building with Vaadin already. Just wanted to kind of put a stick in the ground that this is our foundation, this is our background, this is how we see the world. And this is how we have built Vaadin from the many years. So we have Vaadin Flow that takes care of many of these layers, and we have Vaadin components that make composing those UIs easier. And the controversial thing that we are now doing with 24.4 is that we are bringing React to this stack side by side with Vaadin Flow. You probably have been trying out Hilla already as a separate product, but what we are doing now is bringing Hilla into Vaadin in parallel with Vaadin Flow using the same components. And this is all about adding more optionality for you. So if your team is all about pure Java, just ignore the whole React thing. We are fully committed in Flow. We will be building everything in Flow. But if your organization also has like a front-end teams, this will enable you to kind of bring them into the same application, building maybe parts of the application instead of them kind of competing with you and trying to convince the management that, hey, maybe we shouldn't be building this in Vaadin, we should be building this in React. So this is more like adding more capabilities for you. And everything works seamlessly with the same components, same look and feel, same menu structure, same URLs. So we try to kind of make it a seamless experience. All right. Kind of wondering at this point, Leif and Mark, do you want to add anything in here or?
Well, I could emphasize what was shown on one of the slides you shown. Basically, we definitely believe that going all in with just Java, it's the most productive way, all else being equal, because then you have kind of fewer moving pieces and so on. But at the same time, I mean, the world is full of React developers, and I think many Java developers nowadays are also kind of React developers against their interest maybe, or kind of being promoted to being a full stack developer for various reasons. So that's why I think it's really great to have both options, but it's definitely, there's nobody saying that you must use both options, but the option is there if you want to, or if that makes sense for you.
Yeah, and in a really tangible manner, if you go to startvaadin.com today and create a new application, you can actually add both views for Flow and Hilla, and it pretty much says what Leif is saying about the priorities. So when we abstract more away from the tech with the Flow, you are faster typically in building an application. Then again, React is actually quite awesome as well. It gives you a lot of power on tweaking the DOM exactly to your liking if you like tweaking DOM. And so in that sense, it should be kind of giving more power to you as well. All right, so maybe kind of this is an internal slide at Vaadin, how we're going to see the vision where Vaadin is going. So kind of sharing this with you guys might kind of help seeing the path forward as well. So how we see Vaadin is that in the past, many years ago, it was a framework for coding in Java on the server side for creating web apps. But we don't take much opinion on how do you build your application, and because of that, it was a bit too complicated for many, and people built a bit too much spaghetti code to their liking. So we have been kind of adding components in there, and kind of the interplay of components and framework has been the foundation of Vaadin, so to speak. Where we are going is we try to increasingly build this as a full stack platform that makes it easier for you to build out ready-made larger PCs without sacrificing any of the freedoms that you have had. Most people building on top of Vaadin, they are using Spring, and especially now the React features that we are adding in there, they are actually depending on Spring. We plan to keep support over everything that Flow supports today in there for forever with Flow as well. So we are not taking anything away, but for the full stack features and especially React-oriented features, they might be Spring-oriented. This is all about Java themes. So if we say front-end or React in somewhere, this is built for Java teams who want to use some of the front-end tech as well. So this is not built for React teams. And the cool new thing that we are now bringing in is an AI-powered code-first UI editor called Vaadin Copilot. This is still early days for it, but the vision in there is to build a kind of Vaadin body that sits next to you while you are coding your UI that can help you to do the UI coding, can visualize what you are building, can help you to shape the UI by dragging and dropping with mouse or chatting in natural language and helping you to build the UI. This is more of that's a kind of foundational vision. Mark will be showing how that actually looks like today, and we'll be seeing how that will be developing over time as well, as today AI still has its share of limitations. Anyways, that's everything I wanted to say here. So let's see what question do we have in here, and Mark and Leif, please add in here as well.
Yeah, well, I've been following the questions coming in. Some of them will be covered later. There's a question if the demo app is also on GitHub. So it's not at the moment because we still want to polish it a bit and so on. It will be eventually. That's the plan. We will see exactly how to do it because, I mean, we keep adding more workarounds to the app and then we should make those things properly also. So we'll see. But also at the same time, I like to emphasize that most of the magic in that app is just a bunch of CSS and the kind of the DOM structure, what kind of elements you have wrapped in what way. And that's something you can very easily also inspect from the browser's inspector. You can even, it might even be better because then you can play with it, see kind of what happens if I change this, what happens if I change that, and see that live without having to go through actually even editing any code.
Also, a user from our design team, he did isolate the theme, so to speak, from this application and did publish that in the directory. So you can find it from there. Try?
In Vaadin directory.
Yes. And I mean, I haven't tried that out, and it's not supposed to be like a product or anything like that. So the intent with StarPass was to let's build something beautiful first and then make it beautiful internally after that. So frankly, it's still a bit of a mess internally, but when we get that mess sorted out, we aspire to isolate some components out of that, aspire to isolate the theme, product quality theme out of that as well, and publish all of that open source, but we are not there yet. Rene is asking when can we expect the 24.4 GA release? I guess the snarky engineering response would be when it's ready, but as we have from the product side, maybe it's not okay to have snarky engineering responses. Typically, it takes like 3 weeks or so from beta to GA. Now we, I guess, completely failed in the timelines to beta. We had 24 or 25 alpha releases, and that's very, very much exceptional before we got to beta. We had so much stuff coming into 24.4 that it took way longer to cook. And we decided that we don't want to release anything half-baked as beta. At least the intention was that beta should be of decent quality. And now you guys are the judge, so please try it out and tell us what is broken in there. We know some things that are broken and are fixing those, but we need to know more about it. My guess at this point would be somewhere like end of May, would be the early June-ish.
Yeah.
Mark and Leif, do you have any better guesses?
My bet is on 3 weeks from now, so that's also very close to end of May.
Yeah, that sounds about right. We have some questions here about Vaadin Copilot, the AI-powered UI editor. We think maybe we should actually get back to those when you have seen it. So,
but there's
stay
two
put.
more generic questions or kind of questions that would fit into this theme.
Yeah, feel free to highlight something from there directly.
Well, you are the admin. You're the one who can highlight them, but
okay.
The very following one after the one about the GA release. So what component can you suggest for showing backend notification? Let's say I have a list of notifications that user can check when he clicks on button and mark some of are viewed and some he read later. So this is a quite specific use case. I would say there isn't any single built-in component for this purpose. But what it sounds like is that it's a list, so basically a vertical layout, for instance, of row objects, and each row object then kind of shows that notification, and it can have buttons or checkboxes, or depending on your UI design for marking as read and or saying read later.
So the next one is about the enterprise application target. It's for all kinds of business applications, whether these are out there in the internet, like as SaaS products, or whether those are internal for enterprises. I think Vaadin is pretty good in both cases. And anything that is like data-centric and maybe more intense than just a static website. Then again, Vaadin is quite bad for static websites. It's kind of overkill for such use case, and it doesn't optimize for search engine findability or anything like that. So if you are building a website, use something else. If you are building a SaaS application with 100,000 users that are fairly data-centric, we try to make Vaadin awesome for that case. So there is nothing limiting Vaadin from being used for internet applications, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess you get the most benefit if you have kind of a deep session, as some call it, that you actually interact and stay with the application for some time, and not kind of just click through a little bit and read some stuff or buy some sneakers.
Yeah. All right. I think the rest of the questions fall to the category of React integration and AI Copilot. So let's kind of postpone those questions to those sections. And if I miss something completely, please just ask it again, and I'll highlight it from here. So I'll stop my screen share and hand it over to Leif.
Yep.
And maybe I should be adding you to stage. So
thank you. So yeah, now we're going to look at some practical examples here. So here we have a Vaadin application. We got two very impressive views. These are exactly the views you could get from start.vaadin.com also. You won't notice it, but these just happen to be built by Hilla now. So if you actually look at the sources, one of the new features that we're adding is a file system-based router for Hilla. So why do we have that thing there? That shouldn't be there. Oh, now we have it as it should be. So basically what we see here is that this whole application, we got the front-end directory, it's almost empty. There's an index.html, but otherwise everything is inside /views. And here we just have 3 files, and that's basically all the UI of this application. So we got this index.tsx, which maps to kind of the index view, so just localhost /nothing. Then we got about.tsx, which correspond to /about here. And then we got the @layout file, which is kind of everything surrounding the view here.
And maybe should be going to mention that layout is pretty much generated by the start.vaadin.com. So if there is a complicated looking React code, it's you typically are not the one who is writing that.
Yeah, and also kind of you can just as well have everything in Flow and so on. But right now, since kind of showcasing the integration between Flow and Hilla, so that's why I started in this case from a Flow Hilla example. But the thing I want to show really is that it's really easy to add a new view here. So I just created an example.tsx file here in this views folder. And then if I just export default function, let's name it example. Can't type today, but that's no news. And then just actually let's return a Vaadin button because they are so pretty. Hello, Hilla. And then immediately when I save, this thing also pops up here in the menu, so you don't need to configure anything for that. And we can also automatically navigate to it. And kind of the URL here /example, that comes directly from the name of the file. And you can have kind of directories here. You can have a special naming convention for parameters and so on. One thing you usually want to do, though, is you want to customize something. So actually this title here, well, it happens to be same as example, but that actually now comes from this name of the method. But that doesn't always make sense. So we can also export a const named config. Let's give it a view config type. And now this doesn't work. So let's just do it like this. And then, for instance, I can here give it a title. So this is actually my view. And then if I save, we see that, yeah, well, now this is my view. And for instance, maybe I want to change the ordering in this menu. So actually what was generated from start.vaadin.com had this to have kind of order 0. This had order 1. And then this one without any order comes last. But I can, for instance, say menu order. And then to go between 0 and 1, I need to set 0.5, for instance, as the order. So now this menu item is kind of in between those two also. So that's the kind of first thing here to show. Let's restart TypeScript in the editor to see if that helps with the auto-completion. So kind of we make it much easier to get started with adding Hilla views, and like we will see soon, this also integrates with Flow views.
Maybe kind of about the file system router. This is like one abstraction layer up from what Hilla have had before. So it makes this kind of easy cases. Let's add one more view. Let's automatically add that to view that to kind of make it really easy. But it doesn't take anything away, so you can still configure everything by writing the menu yourself explicitly, and so all of that power is still in there.
Yeah, so all the code for the menu is these 5 lines here. If you remove these, you can just add your own menu entries, and that's that. And also, I mean, this file system structure, it's just a way of configuring the same React router that you would have used with Hilla and React previously also. And you can also create your own routes DSX file and continue configuring manually if you want to. But let's go on to the next feature. So I want to add some state management here also. And for this, we're introducing a new thing called signals. So I can create a signal, for instance, account, and then I can just directly use the count here in my button, and then I add an on-click listener where I just do count.value ++. So this is all it takes to have a click count with React in this case, because the signal integration takes care of kind of re-rendering and all those kinds of things. But the really cool thing is you don't need to have this signal only kind of owned by this component. So we can actually lift it up to be on a module level. Then we shouldn't use the React hook, but instead the regular kind of factory. And we can also share these. So if I export this signal, and then if I open the layout, I can just import it here. So let's just take the count. We got an import here from the .example. And now when I save, we actually, just like that, sharing the value between kind of the component itself, and in this case, here kind of next to the title in the main layout. We're planning to make this even more awesome so that you can also synchronize signal values with the server, with different users, with server-side logic, and so on. But for now, in 24.4, we are just adding this thing, which is already very, very, very flexible and awesome.
So this will be a really flexible foundation for all kinds of server-client communication. Maybe someday also you could sync these to database between Flow and Hilla. So there is so many opportunities to go with Signal as a concept. And kudos to Preact team. So this is the implementation, the foundational implementation for Signals that's coming from Preact. So this is not something that we have invented in-house, but where we wanted to have a solid foundation that is battle tested on the market, and that we can be building on and adding all this full stack functionality on top of that.
Yes. So that was two very cool new things we're adding for Hilla. Let's see how we get Flow into this application also. So I'm going to create a Java file now, and let's just make this, for instance, flowview.java. And here in this file, I extend, well, vertical layout is also always a good option. And then let's create a constructor, make it public. And let's just add hello flow. And to make this kind of actually show up in the application, I need to add the very familiar @route annotation from Flow. And then also we're adding a new annotation @menu that will also make it kind of publish this thing to the menu also. So with those two small changes, waiting for a redeploy, and now we also have a Flow view here embedded inside this. I was about to say a Hilla application, but no, this is a Vaadin application. Some views are kind of using Vaadin Flow, some views are using Vaadin Hilla, and that's the whole point, that you have the option of combining if you want to, but also emphasizing you don't have to mix if you don't want. You can do everything with just Flow. You can also have the main layout in Flow and so on if you want, or keep using only Hilla if that's your cup of tea.
What you said in the very beginning is that you don't even notice that you are using React somewhere in here because it looks like a Vaadin application. That's pretty much the point. So we want to make it sure that everything is just looking seamlessly integrated. Everything is leveraging the exact same components. So the end user wouldn't need to know anything about the implementation. So if your team is building everything in pure Java, and you have a view where it might be beneficial to use React, you can just go and do it for one view, and nobody needs to be caring for the rest of the application. Or if you happen to have a React-oriented team in the house, and you want to kind of bring them to join your product development effort, they can build their part in React, and it looks like exactly same seamless application. And maybe something that is not obvious for people who haven't tried out Hilla. Hilla is bridging the gap between server-side services and the client-side React. So all of this communication basically becomes free and seamless.
Yeah, I mean
in there.
That's a good point. I can just kind of show that. Well, we got this Hello World here application here, and when I click hello, it kind of shows a notification there. But the way this is implemented, the really cool thing is that here in the click listener for this button, we just do hello world service.say hello, and then we have a corresponding hello world service Java that just kind of echoes back hello and something, and based on this generating all the server client calls and so on, and that's kind of what
so
makes
if you kind of keep
productive.
it in there for a bit. So if you haven't tried out Hilla, just going to point out, this is just the regular Spring service annotation that you add to any Java class, and after that it's a service. And what we added on top of that is browser callable annotation. And what that creates is auto-generate client-side facade, if you will, for calling this service from the client side and ensuring all the type safety along the way. So it's a TypeScript-based facade where you can call this method and actually get strongly typed response in there. So this is like super powerful facility that makes what I would like to kind of how I like to see it is that Vaadin can be the full stack framework for React on building on top of Java. So in that sense, anybody who would be wanting to build something on React and want to have a Java backend, they definitely should be looking at Vaadin. And I think we are able to kind of bring so much on the table by integrating, making the integration between these two things super easy.
I think this goes back to, Jonas, your initial slides as well, where you had the network and how we traditionally think about the front end and back end as separated by the network. And that's just because it's been difficult and been creating problems. But why? Because we can abstract away the whole network thing. And so I kind of think about it as moving the boundaries. So in Hilla, you kind of bring the backend boundary to the browser, so you can interact with your data from there. And in Flow, it's the other way. You from the backend, you kind of update your UI, and you don't have to care about the network.
Yeah, I guess the key is here when we fight for simplicity by reducing stuff. What did you not see in this? we didn't see anybody kind of figuring out, hey, what type of tokens should we be having here, and how do we design the REST API, and how do we make sure that this is authenticated correctly, and all of that just happened automatically. So by kind of taking this really awkward network part away, so to speak, from this this kind of a communication between the React front end and the backend Spring service, that became so automated that it's almost as easy as with Vaadin Flow. It's not as easy because you still have two languages. You are not writing everything in pure Java. You still have to think about, hey, this thing is running on the client side, so there are security implications for, you cannot kind of check for security inside something that runs on the client side. But many of these things are just simplified so much that this full stack React framework for Spring called Vaadin is almost as simple as Vaadin Flow framework.
Yes. And now back to the demo. The next thing I'm going to show you, because I mean, maybe you want to use just a little bit of React, but you're actually a Flow developer. You have this kind of cool third-party component that you found online, or maybe the React developer in your team has built this thing that you want to integrate, and so on. So the next thing I'm going to show here is how you can take any React component and use it from something that is otherwise just a Flow view. So I have already created here a new TypeScript file defined a class that extends React adapter element, which is provided by Vaadin. I'm registering this as a custom element, and now I also need to actually implement this thing. So what we have here is a render function for this kind of React wrapper. So in this case, let's just return again a beautiful Vaadin button that says hello flow. And now we got some error that I don't know what's wrong here. Oh, I've got the parameters in the wrong order. So let's write like this instead. Much better. Thank you, TypeScript. This is again one of the benefits of using TypeScript instead of just regular JavaScript. So now I defined here a custom element that kind of wraps a React component. The next step is to also create a Java class that actually uses that custom element. So let's create here also a React example.java. And here I need to also, extends React something adapter component, I think it's called component. And now again, my ID is messing with me. Not create a class, no, but
component.
Yeah, well, that's just the first half of the problem. I created this class accidentally.
And that's how the framework gets created. Leif accidentally created a new class in there.
Yep. No, actually, we don't even need this. And to use this, I need to give it a tag or kind of say which tag name it is. So it's React example. And actually import that thing also. And then also JS module to actually load the script that I created. So that's React example.tsx. And the final step is going back to the flow view and actually adding an instance of this component also. And with that done, we should have a working React integration. So yes, here we actually have this React component from Flow, but in, well, you get it. It's kind of inside out and outside in, because this is also now inside React and Flow and then React in that. So you can, I mean, the point is, well, you can mix and match in whatever way you want.
Is there any limitations for doing kind of creating new components in React and using them in Flow?
What you can do now, I mean, this is a very, very, very simple example. You can also pass parameters from Flow here. You can pass events back. You can also pass parameter updates back. And that gets you very far already. One limitation that we're working on fixing for the next Vaadin version, so it won't be in 24.4, but it will be in 24.5, is that you can also add Flow components as children inside those React components. So you could kind of, well, you could create a React button that has a Flow button inside it.
So what we eventually should be having is that there is, you can mix and match everything as you wish, and there shouldn't be any, the framework shouldn't be holding you back in this.
Yes.
We are quite close, but not completely in there because of the component containers not yet supported in there.
Yeah, but I mean, even without component container support, I would say we still have 80% of all cases supported because I mean, there are very many React components out there that you don't need to add Flow components as children to. And I mean, I would have more cool things to show, but maybe in the interest of time, we should talk about something else also. I guess there's a whole bunch of questions to answer and so on.
Yeah, Rene has a good question on what's the roadmap. Actually, let's start from this one first. So are we still working on some improvements for Hilla until the 24.4 GA release, or is it like just bug fixes?
It's basically just bug fixes. We're right now releasing beta 2, which has an adjustment to somehow how things are packaged. So we're splitting up the React components into commercial and non-commercial parts so that people can use just the free parts, which is almost all of the components, kind of without also having those with a different license, because some governments and so on have strict policies against even touching anything that isn't open source. In addition to that, there's a couple of very small tweaks, but otherwise we will just fix the serious bugs as they pop up, and then we should be ready for GA. Of course, there's many things to keep improving, and then we got to the next question. But those will be for
René is reading your mind.
Yeah, it's magic. So what do we have for the future? I mean, the next big thing on my mind is really to keep expanding on the signals. We have already started a project for the kind of first stage of full stack signals, which is to make collaborative signals, because when you want to build any kind of collaborative functionality, it's really about sharing UI state between multiple users who are kind of collaborating in one way or another. And the signals, there's already a way of kind of managing UI state. So if we can just do it so that you have one signal and multiple users sharing that same value, then that's a very powerful way of adding collaborative functionality, or just kind of any live update thing. It doesn't have to be collaboration in that sense. In addition to that, we're also continuing with the kind of coexistence between Flow and Hilla. So one thing mentioned already was to have these Flow components inside React adapter elements. And then also the opposite side, one thing that is still missing also is that when you have a Hilla view, you cannot in an easy way render it inside a Flow layout. So you can't take an existing Flow application and easily start adding Hilla views to it. So that's also something that we will be improving. Then on top of that, of course, kind of lots of small improvements here and there, improvements to all the components and just small things overall. But I would say kind of the big theme that we have now, it's really kind of making Flow and Hilla work together, and then full stack signals, which probably will keep us occupied for a while.
And I believe many needs will arise from that. So whenever you need something and feel that, hey, this is still missing in there, there are two places to kind of if it's just a clear bug, then add an issue. But if it's something that you want to discuss, we would like to kind of more and more have these conversations to the direction where we are going. What should we be adding on, to have all of that in public? And Vaadin forum is a pretty good place to have those. So ping us there, add any kind of topics in there, and let's engage in discussion so that we can have those in the roadmap. Speaking of which, there was a question around, let's see. Yeah, so should we support hover event listeners on components? Yeah, we should. I'll take a note of this and share that with Rolf, who is managing the components team.
I would say yes and no, because the problem with hover is that it's very latency sensitive, which means that it typically doesn't make sense if you have kind of server-side logic reacting to that. But
yeah, for client-side logic, yes.
For client-side logic, yes. And with most components, you don't even need to do anything because it's just DOM elements. You can always add a kind of mouse over listener and so on already without even any support in the components.
Fair enough. Then there is a question about is there a limitation for using third-party React components in Flow apps?
Yeah, I mean, I showed a very simple example of that, and it would work just the same way. You just import it from some other place than at Vaadin/React components if it's a third-party component. And communication, like I said, it's true. Either sending properties to this. So here I can do kind of hooks dot use state, and then I can get a state variable that has been passed from the Java side, and then I can also here do hooks dot use custom event, which creates a callback that I can use to kind of send things back to the server. So that's the main ways of how communication happens.
But I think this is kind of the question itself highlights one of the key benefits for every Flow developer from the React implementation. You get access to way larger ecosystem of components because now you can easily integrate anything React in there.
Yeah.
Let's take banner away. All right. Is there still something we want to discuss here regarding Hilla? Yeah, there are still more questions. So Knubia is asking, now that the focus shifts over React, is there a plan to rebuild components natively on React instead of moving them to Polymer from Polymer to Lit? No, this is a kind of an obvious thing that we have been asking ourselves, would it make sense? I think one of the key benefits if the components would be built in native React, so to speak, would be that there would be server-side rendering. But because Vaadin's target is not really for websites, the server-side rendering part doesn't really matter too much. So we intend to keep everything in web component standard, because that kind of keeps the opportunities for supporting more beyond React. Some customers have been asking, hey, when do you support Angular? We don't have an answer to that, but we would like to kind of keep that door open. And standards are awesome because they are more long living compared to any particular libraries. What else? I think
there's one question here in the okay.
So, do you want to take that one?
The hooks from React will work only the new hooks that you demonstrate. All React hooks work because this is just vanilla React. So you can use state and use context and use effect and all those also if you want. Our documentation will recommend use signal instead of use state and use context. And with that, many needs for instance, use effect also kind of disappears. But you can definitely still use any React hooks out there.
So what's the future of Hilla Lit?
Right now we are mostly focusing on React, and I think some of the things that we do will also benefit Lit usage. So for instance, all the new or any improvements we do to components will also help Lit users. You can use signals with Lit. There's a signal integration for Lit HTML as well, and so on. But definitely, Lit is getting a little bit kind of in the back seat because we need to focus on something, and that something is React.
So one more question. We have way more questions that we can answer, so we have to jump over to the next section. The final question is, in the future, can we anticipate Flow and Hilla merging? I think that merge has happened in a way. We have brought both of these inside Vaadin, and the Flow and Hilla, they are more, we could kind of see them as an API name, so kind of names for APIs in some sense rather than independent framework. So that merge has kind of happened already. But then again, the extent of kind of merging further than what we already did, what Leif did show there, I don't see that there would be kind of need for a deeper merge. Maybe putting that to other words, if you want to stay 100% in Hilla, you don't have to concern yourself with Flow. If you want to stay 100% in Flow, you don't have to concern yourself with Hilla. So this, I think, the level of integration should be now giving you the flexibility, but not really kind of constraining yourself.
Yeah, I would say even in addition to that, because in Vaadin 10 we introduced this kind of template thing where we were really tightly merging server-side Java and templates together, and in the end it turned to be more confusing than useful, because the problem there is really that either you want to have all the UI logic, all the state controlled by the server, or then you want to have all the UI logic and state controlled by client-side code. But if you in the same view have a little bit of server-side state and a little bit of client-side state and kind of everyone reacting to everything, then things tend to be way too confusing to make any sense. So from that point of view, I think kind of it's not even useful to merge too much.
Let's take two really quick ones. Quarkus, yeah, we'll continue supporting Quarkus for Flow. Not at the moment working towards adding support for Hilla.
But there's an awesome community addition for the add-on for that.
Yeah. Is it possible to build mobile apps? We believe in proxy web apps, so every web app should be working great on mobile, but no direct, no intention at the moment, at least, to explore like mobile wrappers or React Native or anything like that.
And this is a mobile app because now suddenly the menu disappeared when the size changes. So now it's kind of in mobile mode.
And finally, does the authentication work with Hilla plus Vaadin combo? It should. If it doesn't,
yes,
then there is a bug.
Yes, it's completely seamless.
And bugless.
That I can't promise, unfortunately.
All right. So we have been spending a bit more time than we anticipated in this. So let's jump over to Copilot, and Mark, stage is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to have to share my entire screen as well. And Jonas, if you can, yes. Let me get set up here and oriented. Oh, well. Yes, so first of all, so I'm going to talk about the Vaadin Copilot, the UI, AI-powered UI editor thing that we got a lot of question about here now. And the first thing to notice about that is that it's a little bit different than you might imagine in a few ways. So it actually comes pre-installed with Vaadin 24.4. So it's not a separate kind of tool that you open up and then open your project in it. So what I have here is a project from startvaadin.com, imported to IntelliJ and ready to go here. It's running. And I've kind of started working on a little UI here. So I have to move some stuff out of the way so I can actually see what I'm doing. Yeah, so what I'm talking about with it coming pre-installed, this application is now ready to be developed. I've been typing in my editor and so on, and now I'm switching over to see how it looks. It's not quite done. It's not, going to continue working on it. And it's now running in development mode, so you can see the little familiar Vaadin logo down here. So, so this one. But we have made some changes. So previously you got a few tools from there, but now it's hiding the whole of Copilot. And if I click that button, it turns a funky color, and you can see the edges of the application glowing to indicate that now we have activated Copilot. And so first, maybe just a quick tour. This is the command window where you can interact with the AI, but this is also the second thing. It's named Vaadin Copilot, but right now, most of the functionality you might want to use is actually not directly like the AI stuff you would expect. So there's a lot of other functionality. We have to the left, to the right, and to the bottom, we have panels that are hiding functionality. So maybe first take a look at kind of the structure. So this is the outline of the application where you can see the components, and kind of instead of seeing kind of the code or the DOM structure created, you can see kind of the actual components here. So here I'm getting down to my view and the contents of my view, which is the vertical layout we can see right here. And kind of I'm not quite done here, so title doesn't let shipping. So this is kind of, I switched over from code and I'm able to live edit things. And let's take a look in the code. So it, as you can see, it has actually changed that code. Maybe address, shipping address is better. So if I switch back, it's changed to shipping address. And this is one of the points. We wanted this tool to be kind of integrated into your development workflow. So we expect that everyone will be coding. So previously, when we have been talking about low code, we have kind of decided not to use that terminology anymore, because we always had to explain that, yeah, we're doing these tools so you don't have to code certain things. It's faster, so you have more time to code the interesting things. So the idea is that this integrates with your IDE completely. And I also have kind of, you can see in the
maybe
bottom
I
here.
could
Yes.
add something in here. So basically repeating what you said, because I think this is really key to whole philosophy of Copilot. So this is code first. There is no model. Your code is the model. And this is drastically different from Vaadin Designer. And actually, pretty much most of the design tools out there, they maintain something that is kind of a model that is stored in some kind of XML or property file or whatnot, and then you bind to that model. We don't have that. So it's really important that when we don't have that, your code is the master, your code is the model. It simplifies a lot and it makes this drastically more robust.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's a very, very good point, that the code is the source of truth. It actually edits your code and then it hot deploys it to the application. So it's exactly as you would be typing code in there. To help with a little bit of things, we have actually made a plugin. So we have a plugin for IntelliJ. This is IntelliJ. And we also have one for VS Code. And the point of that plugin is that we can integrate the changes you do in here and also the changes you do in Copilot in the same undo stack. So it makes sense. You can just do the changes wherever you want. They will show up as if you had typed them in here. So skipping back.
And you can undo as well wherever. So you can undo over here, or you can undo from the IDE.
Yes, you can.
If in some case you happen to make an error, it's unlikely that you ever make an error, but maybe we have an AI for you that makes the error for you. So it's sometimes undo is good.
Exactly. So now comes the kind of exciting and scary part here. So I'm kind of looking at this country field here, and I'm kind of thinking that that's not maybe the optimal way to do this. So let's try now to use the AI. So maybe change this field to a combo box with Nordic countries, something like that, maybe. And kind of AI, it's been kind of, we have been noticing that the services we use and so on, they sometimes are slower, sometimes faster, sometimes they are less deterministic than other times. We have ideas around that and kind of working on it, but the AI gods are with us. I turn off Copilot, now I can interact with the thing, and it looks like, pretty good. And I didn't have to think so much about kind of fiddling with the code. So maybe if I jump over to the source again, and it jumps to the location where that is specified, it's done a lot of kind of fiddly things here. So now I can see how you do that. And I didn't have to type all that in. So, and for my next trick here, let's take a look at more of the stuff here. So we did the outline. So we have the palette. So let's maybe look at here. So so this is kind of obvious. We have the components here available, and let's just drag in a button here. So it has drag and drop, and as you saw, you can kind of quickly do little changes here to this, and kind of drag and drop the order of anything and so on. So it's kind of, the idea is you can switch back and forth. Like previously you did some coding for a while, and then you looked at, oh, how does that look? And then you realize, oh no, I need to move that and move this. And then you hop back. Now you can kind of, okay, I just need to do these small adjustments. You can do them right here in kind of in the visual mode. So no hopping back and forth. The routes panel here is right now it's showing you kind of just what routes are available and if they have security and so on. This is going to gain more features in the future. Next, kind of on the right here, let's take a look at the theme editor, and you can each panel here. Let's pop this one out. We get a little bit more space. You can pop them out like that. And this is kind of, you might have seen the theme editor before. This is that. So you can kind of style here. Let's say I don't remember how I style the helper text. It's possible to jump into this kind of editor here and change the style for that particular thing. And I'll see in CSS how that works. I can also do kind of, if I want to change all email fields, or let's choose something else here so we don't change that. So yeah, all text fields I can kind of change the border width for all the text fields. So you can see there's quite a lot you can do here. You might have seen the theme editor previously. So it's now integrated into Copilot. You can change the global theme as well. So I like green. Let's, do a really ugly green button.
That is super green.
I'm sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, so you can change kind of the background here. Let's do something green here too. No, let's not.
This is going to be really alien UI.
Yeah. So, and if I fiddle, you can see like sometimes, as I said, the source of truth is in the code. So it modifies the code. Sometimes you get exactly the same kind of reloading or deploying a little bit takes a little bit longer that you get when you're using code. So for instance, when you do imports, you will see a small delay and so on. Next, let's actually.
But the cool thing in here is that actually everything that you edited for theme, that was saved in CSS. So this is not like Inspector where you can try things out. It actually went and edited your code.
Yes, exactly. Oops. You can see this is actually live because things are happening. So yeah, so let's turn off the Copilot for a while and do a kind of interesting thing here. So if I open the DevTools inspector, and I think many of us have done this, you're like, oh, I have this thing here. I need to custom style it somehow. Let's get into the inspector here and do kind of border 3px inset light green, because that's our theme. So, ooh, beautiful.
It's going to be looking horrible.
Padding. This is not a design webinar, if you didn't notice. I'm doing this intentionally so you can see clearly what I'm changing. So anyway, I'm just doing some things here, and when I'm pleased with myself, like this is the result I want. Previously, the problem has been that if I press reload now, those changes are gone forever. So, but the thing is, if I actually enable Copilot and kind of hop over to the, let's pop it out again. You can see better. Pop over to the browser inspector tab here. It will show the things I have custom changed and allow me to write these to the project, to the CSS file. So now the changes are forever committed here, so I don't lose the green, nice little green bar when I reload. So things like this is kind of, it can help you when you're working on styling and so on. So that's the theme editor. Next is the accessibility checker. And yeah, I'm sorry about going a little bit fast, but there is a lot, so I'm still just skimming. We can run a check here and find kind of problems, and my changes to the theme might not have been good for accessibility here. So we get a lot of complaints. We don't have time. This could be a separate webinar about kind of this, but kind of cool. It tells you about accessibility issues you might have in your application. And here the info panel. So this is, you have had this before. Two things I want to point out here is that you can see, and this will complain if you don't have the plugin installed, because it's really kind of, you really want that undo integration. So as I said, IntelliJ or VS Code, we have the plugins that integrate with the undo stack. And the second thing is hot swap. This is Hilla now, so I get by without having Java hot swap. I have the front-end hot swap, but for Java, you should really see if you can enable hot swap. It gives you instructions on how to do that. So, what else? Yes, down here we have the feature flags.
Basically, hot swap, you can either use JRebel or free hot swap agent. The hot swap agent is a bit more finicky and harder to configure, but this gives you instructions how to do that. So.
Yes. Yes, and so the last thing here on the right is the feature flags, and I mentioned this is Hilla, not Flow. The whole Vaadin Copilot is, for the moment, for Hilla. We're working right now on Flow support as well. So there's a feature flag. I wouldn't maybe recommend enabling it just yet. We don't have very many features working yet, but you will be able to track that, and that's something we're working on right now. It turns out that is a fair bit more complex to do, because just when you don't have a template, you have code, there are more cases to account for when you are moving things around. And basically that was, I think, like a super quick overview of most of the stuff here. As you can imagine, if you dive in and look at these things, there's more here. Maybe one thing I could still show is kind of you can select multiple things, and kind of in the menu here you have a few things as well. You can duplicate. We already used go to source a few times. You can add click listeners. If you have multiple things selected, you can wrap with. So if I want these two elements to be in a vertical layout, that's available. So those are kind of the main points here, and kind of it's called Vaadin Copilot. And one of the neat things that we would really love to get feedback on is the AI functionality, and kind of what do you find useful, what didn't work. So you can give a thumbs up, thumbs down for kind of the results you get, but also kind of what specific things would be helpful. We have a long list of ideas, but as you start using it, help us prioritize that. But yeah, even if it's called Copilot, it's not only AI, and right now many of the features you might find useful are actually non-AI features. And I think we had a bunch of questions.
Maybe before jumping in there, just to kind of highlight, there is overwhelmingly a lot of stuff in the Copilot, and this is just the beginning. So we really want to build awesome editor for you. Somebody was asking what happens with the Vaadin Designer. The vision is that this will be replacing Vaadin Designer. Hopefully this is useful for everybody who's building on top of Vaadin, so that you can accelerate your workflows by dragging and dropping things around, not chatting with AI. And some of the things that are yet to come over here is that we'll imagine integrating deeper to data sources. So not just generating the UI code, but also generating some of the persistence code as well, bringing in more like snippets and templates so that we can help you craft new UIs even more easily by you dragging and dropping ready-made UI pieces in here. And obviously the AI will be getting a lot smarter. So regardless of us, it will be hallucinating less and being more logical. So maybe at some point of time you can ask it to do larger tasks. Hey, build me a great paste and record form in here, and maybe it understands what needs to be in a paste record form and builds all of that and the backend as well. But that's like this is like the very beginnings of a larger vision for having this Vaadin Copilot that helps and sits next to you and helps you build awesome applications.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's a good point to point out here. Right now, it's kind of intentionally quite limited. It only makes changes to kind of the one file, the one view you're looking at, and so on. So there's a lot of ideas around making it create much bigger, doing much bigger changes that affects multiple files and so on. And yet also not just having that kind of generic prompt, but using AI to do specific things, so generate some dummy data or things like this. It can help quite a lot. It's quite good at that sort of things, but it doesn't have to happen by typing in natural language.
Yeah, maybe you could even like chat with that in natural, like with your voice at some point of time, if that's helpful. But we have many questions, and we are kind of already a bit more than an hour, while we thought that maybe an hour is enough. But it's great to hear that you have so many questions. So let's take some of these real quick. So the first one is from Alex. So with the Code First AI editor, do you see assistance in coding from visual tools? As you can say, this is an interplay between you visually drag and dropping things around and chatting with AI, and that's the direction where we want to go. We want this to be like feeling that, okay, we named this internally as Joni AI. So Joni is the guy who has been building some of the most impressive themes as well as the star paths. So we wanted to think that, hey, what if I could have Joni sitting next to me while I'm coding? So it's like we could be asking Joni that, hey, could you do this for me? But also maybe Joni could guide my hand while I'm kind of coding. So instead I can kind of drag and drop things around. So it's an interplay, not just like replacement.
Yeah, and kind of the point that the idea is really that it's your code. It's still your code. It puts code into your project, and you kind of can see what it did, and kind of the idea is you can switch back and forth quite quickly. So it's supposed to. If I'm using the shortcut here, I can just kind of when I pop over and see the results of my coding, I can just notice that, oh, I have a typo in here. I can change it right here where it's faster than kind of switching back and finding that location. Or if it's something bigger, I can just kind of help it to find that spot and make the changes. But the idea is that you can just hop back and forth and just be quicker and more productive that way.
Yeah,
and it's also so much easier to learn. Not everybody kind of can see what the UI looks like by just having a glance of some UI code. If you come into Vaadin for the first time, by seeing actually what you are kind of VisiBook type of approach, it really helps you to edit this.
Yeah, and actually it's even more convenient when you have two screens, so you can have the application on one and the editor on the second. It's a little bit difficult to show here in the webinar, but in that mode, it's even more seamless to jump back and forth between the code and the application.
Yeah.
So Jason is asking, will the AI-powered UI editor be integrated into IDEs?
Yeah, this is kind of why we said let's get back to these questions afterwards, because it's a little bit of a new paradigm, that it's not kind of a separate application, it lives in your application. That has some benefits, because it's your actual components, it's the code running that your application has. So but yeah, it will be integrated in the sense we already have. So we have those two IntelliJ and VS Code plugins. The plugins will probably get some additional features. You can already right now create a project from scratch, so you don't have to go somewhere and download. You can do it from the IDE. It's a minor thing. We might be adding more things, but kind of the visual thing is intended to be in the browser, so you can do the adjustments directly to your application.
Maybe a bit of background. So we have always looked up to how Apple has been doing their UI tooling for decades. So they have been the kind of best of the breed for how do you create an UI editor, and that's coming originally from Next Step and then to macOS and so forth. And it was really kind of game-changing moment when they pretty much abandoned the UI editor and went all in with Swift UI, bringing this code-first paradigm to UI editing. You just write code and you see the live application side by side with your code. So Apple went a bit further than React, so to speak, that they added some editor panels inside the code editor where you could maybe tune the layout or colors a bit. And I think we went way beyond what Apple did in this by actually bringing full editing inside live application. So not just you can tweak things a bit inside your IDE, but you actually can have like a full running application, drag and drop fields around, drag and drop new fields in there, having a discussion with that application and this UI. So I'm kind of excited about this new paradigm where that can take UI editing. It's not inside IDE, but it's a collaboration with IDE.
Yeah, and one thing that might not be obvious here is that kind of when you are seeing the running application, this can consist of many files. So if you are looking at one file and using a Copilot for your code, it might have a more difficult time to understanding kind of the UI part of it. What are you intending when you say that, yeah, I want this and that? So it's a UI assistant mostly.
Gordon is asking, is this free or not? How we have kind of crafted this is that everything that has been free before is still free. When we kind of if it's something that is read only, then it's free. When it's kind of actually writing code for you, then you need then it's commercial. But we want to kind of make this accessible for most by bringing out a bit later on, like in few weeks, a new subscription plan that gives you just the Copilot for like $25 a month. So we try to kind of take the price low enough for this to be useful for most. But this is not free. This is a commercial tool. And yeah, if you have any Vaadin subscription, it's always included in everything. So whether you have Pro, Prime, or Ultimate or whatever, it's included.
Yeah, there will be an additional kind of plan that is cheap for just this tooling. Maybe we should mention as well that there's so if you have a subscription already, just go ahead and try it. There's a long trial that you can get for Copilot, so it will ask you to log in, and you can enable a trial, and you can get up to 90 days trial, and we will probably also reset that at some point, but kind of it's, you should be able to figure out if it's for you or not.
Yeah, and one thing to emphasize there with the trial is that you can very well try it even if you don't plan to keep using it, because I mean it just creates, or it just modifies your existing application sources. You won't end up with any kind of specially formatted files that only the Copilot can read or anything like that. So in that way, it's kind of, there's no lock-in at all here, except that you of course get hooked with the productivity gains.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there is a question about could we add, save, share layouts or templates? Maybe kind of one view of this is that if you encapture that layout as a component, maybe React component, then it's usable from all of this. But we also want to bring in this snippet functionality, and this is a good input. We haven't been really thinking sufficiently how can we open it up in a way that everybody could bring their snippets in there.
Yeah, so if we are kind of talking about the Copilot and the palette, we have been planning to make that easy to add your own things, and there are some plans about how you can share that with your team and so on. We don't have any specific plans on how you would share it with the community, but that's a good point that maybe should be able to share via directory or something.
Quick non-Copilot question: would recommend Hilla for new projects? So if you like the workflow with React, absolutely. There are people who have been building production products with Hilla for quite a while now. The new thing is kind of bringing Hilla under the umbrella of Vaadin, so kind of an interplay between Flow and Hilla is new. But this is if there are any bugs, we will fix any bugs in there. So please go and use it. Is Copilot optional? Will it be bundled in the default dependencies?
It's only in development mode, so it won't make it into when you actually deploy your live application. But you can exclude it, but yes, it's included by default, but you can exclude it.
Yeah.
So in a way, if you don't want to use it in the kind of Vaadin's while you are building Vaadin application, the development mode, don't click the Vaadin button, or just use the parts that are there for free. So no kind of difference to what Vaadin has been previously. There has been the Vaadin button already previously, and it has been showing info and the things in that.
Yeah, I think the one case is that if your company has a policy to not touch AI with a long stick, and you are worried that somebody might accidentally do something, you can disable it, so it's not there at all.
Fabio is asking, is the Copilot only the AI part or this designer part as well? It is both, so maybe the naming is confusing, but we want to kind of have one thing that integrates seamlessly together. It's not, and in the end of the day, also, what is AI? That's kind of shifting every day. It's just code and math. So some of the things that happen to be implemented in AI under the hood today might be implemented in non-AI code tomorrow. So all of this is just kind of a unified tool for you to help build the UIs.
Yeah, we have realized, did from the beginning, and we have already kind of, when discussing, realized that it's easy to misunderstand because Copilot is now used so much for only kind of AI things. But the idea is that, as Jonas said, that it wouldn't only be it's helping you, it's your wingman in other things as well. And the AI part would not necessarily just be the input prompt and natural language. It could be part of the other features as well and more seamless. So that's why the whole thing is kind of Copilot.
All right, and I guess the final question for now is, it's also very useful to be able to rearrange components by dragging and dropping. I don't know, Mark, if you actually did show, but this works. So you can
Yeah,
just take
I don't know. Yeah, let me just turn it on first. So yeah, I mean, I can drag things around here and create all kinds of mayhem. But yeah, it's a drag and drop tool. You can see it borrows a little bit of how it works from the feature we have had in Start for a while. And yeah, so it's a drag and drop tool.
All right, thank you everybody so much for participating. We ran a bit longer because you had so many awesome questions in here. So I would encourage everybody to try out the 24/4 beta. Tell us what you think about it. One place to get started is just go to startvaadin.com and build some kind of hello world application with this. We have the 24/4 documentation is available at vaadin.com/doc/next, and there are probably many gaps still in the documentation, so please point those out. And if you have any comments or wishes, please share those on forums or just create the issues. We try to kind of fix bugs as swiftly as possible. So all in all, this 24/4 is kind of a much larger release in disguise. We wanted to kind of keep it minor release just to highlight that we are really committed to stability of Vaadin flow. We don't want to break anything just for having a fancy new stuff coming into Vaadin. So bringing in React support, bringing in Copilot, we are super excited how this might be kind of enabling new things you can do. So please try them out and tell us what you think about it. But yeah, thank you everybody for participating, and hopefully this was useful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.